Welcome to Oz Talk. This is where we talk about all things Oz, and it's a new year, and it's a nice time to join the Oz Club at ozclub.org. And today we're going to be celebrating the anniversary of Broadway's The Wiz, showcasing some upcoming Oz merchandise and diving into the legend of Judy Garland during her time working on The Wizard of Oz. But first, I always love when I'm watching a new movie or a TV show, and there's a mention, or there's a line, or there's some kind of reference or something in the background has to do with The Wizard of Oz. Does anybody else get really excited about seeing something like that?
I do.
Absolutely.
Of course we do.
Who doesn't?
Well, and if you watch a different, this is throwing back a little, if you watch A Different World after season 2, when they have the shakeover with the cast and everything, Dawn Lewis has a Wizard of Oz poster next to her bed in her dorm.
I was recently rewatching Gremlins, which I've seen 1,000 times in my life. And I just realized the nasty neighbor who tries to take Billy's dog at the beginning of the movie, when the gremlins shoot her out the window, all they find of her are her feet wearing a pair of red house slippers. And that's got to be a reference.
For sure.
I think for me, I was watching like an episode of everybody who's seen Warehouse 13. Warehouse 13, there was kind of like a little Wizard of Oz Easter egg though, where it's like the slippers were in like their own separate vault, and then of course you hear they click 3 times, and then you hear the witch cackling at the same time. So it was like, oh boy,
Clever.
Yeah, nothing specific comes to my head, but I feel like I see it so often. It's so deeply embedded in the public consciousness. You always hear like "There's no place like home" or Annie M, or something like that, like in every popular medium. So it's everywhere.
Well, and it's like Cozy TV back at Thanksgiving did a commercial for a bunch of their shows, and it was predominantly Roseanne and Will and Grace that were featured, but it was like the story of the Wizard of Oz told through throwaway lines from various episodes, and it was really cute. It was that just how much it shows up.
Mm-hmm. I just think that's really clever whenever anything goes from black and white to color, or there's any kind of like, oh, you're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. Those kinds of things pop up. My most favorite moments are when somebody sings Over the Rainbow. And so like one of my favorites is Nicole Kidman sings it in the movie Australia. And has anybody else seen that film?
No, but I know how you feel. Kidman.
Yeah. I have homework now. If for no other reason, actually, it's not just, she doesn't just sing in the movie. There are also film clips because the film takes place in 1939, and so there are film clips of them going to the theater and seeing The Wizard of Oz and stuff. So it's really great. So you should all watch it. I think you'd love it. Also, it's just a great movie. It's like a modern day Gone with the Wind. Anyway, the reason I'm reminiscing about all this right now is because Wandavision is a new Marvel TV series coming to Disney Plus very soon, and everybody online is buzzing about how the trailers have some Wizard of Oz Easter eggs in them. Take a look.
Vision, we are an unusual couple. We don't have a song or even wedding rings.
Well, we could rather do that. I do. Do you?
I do.
Couple just moved to town, a regular husband and wife.
This place. I don't understand what's happening.
Look, it's the star of the show.
I'm sorry?
Wanda, can you read me? And they lived happily ever after.
Wandavision. Oh, this is gonna be a gas.
First of all, I just love Catherine Hahn.
I do too.
So glad she's in it. But did anybody catch the Oz Easter egg there?
I saw one. I
Tori?
saw Oz the Great and Powerful in the background. That was crazy.
And the music was at times very reminiscent of Off to See the Wizard and Over the Rainbow. There was some definite Arlen Harburg influence to the music.
Mm-hmm. There's another trailer that they came out with that people are drawing another connection to. See if you can find the Oz Easter egg in this one.
Heavenly shades of night are falling. It's twilight time.
Wanda and Vision, aren't we a five-pair?
This is our home now. I want us to fit in.
Oh, this is gonna be a gas!
Where did you two move from? How long have you been married? And why don't you have children yet?
Our story.
I think what my wife means to say is that we moved from...
Moved from where? Married when? Damn it, why?
Oh, Arthur, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.
Deep in the dark, your kiss will bloom.
Is this really happening?
Like days of old, lighting the spark of love that fills me with dreams of hope.
Am I dead?
No. Why would you think that?
Because you are.
Each day I pray for evening just to be.
We are an unusual couple, you know.
Oh, I don't think that was ever in question.
January 15th for anybody who wants to tune in. Tori, what did you find?
Well, I saw the witch there in the car. That's a pretty obvious call.
Mm-hmm. And as we know, Elizabeth Olsen plays Scarlet Witch, right? So it's going to be interesting to see if Catherine Hahn is some other kind of witch from the comics and what's going to happen there. And I just love that we're bringing witches, and I love that Doctor Strange is a wizard, and now we've got witches. And I think the crossover of, you know, magic and witchcraft and wizardry into the superhero universe makes it very fun for me. I'm going to be watching WandaVision. I love what Disney Plus is doing. Is anybody else going to watch it?
Probably.
You know,
Yes.
I'm not normally a comic book fan, but this one actually has me hooked. So
Yeah, this one does. Same
check
here.
out to see what little bits from Oz we might pick up throughout the series.
Absolutely. Well, also, since it's January, it is an anniversary of The Wiz on Broadway, which first opened in 1975, which means it is now 46 years old, which is great. Let's celebrate and reminisce with The Wiz. Garrett, what are your favorite memories about the show?
Unfortunately, the only stage production I've seen was the City Center Encores revival in 2009. But the album for me was one that I listened to a lot growing up. And I love the fact that not only is it a different interpretation of Oz to begin with, but it goes out of its way to be different from the MGM film. So you get a completely different experience out of it, because beat for beat, you've got songs, but they're not the same things that the MGM film takes place with. The MGM film is all about I want songs, where The Wiz is all about the I am songs. And it's lively and it's fun, and when done right, it's, you know, an absolute blast to see.
Julius, what do you think of the show?
It's awesome. You know, awesome that production like that production of The Wiz became like it stood the test of time pretty much, though, kind of like its predecessor. Though I know we're not talking about the movie, so it's about the stage production, still something different. So, but again, it's different, it's unique, it gives a different take on Oz, though, and of course, it's spearheaded like its predecessor with Stephanie Mills, like a few years down the road. So, I think like this being one of the first renditions of The Wiz, which got awards for it too. So, I mean, like, kudos to that one though, for being like the little jet runner for The Wiz, for like future productions of that version of Oz.
Absolutely. And I think it's really spectacular too, that, at a time in the 70s when Broadway wasn't as diverse as it is today, and we see, shows like Hamilton and the rest of it, but what it said for the African-American community. And I think it speaks to the story of L. Frank Baum and how every culture can project onto it and take from it and make it their own and adapt it. And it speaks to everyone. It crosses all cultures and boundaries. So I really love how The Wiz really celebrated that for American culture, for African American culture, and for Oz. Zoe, what were your thoughts?
So one of the things I love, I don't have like a very specific memory about one production over another, other than the fact that Stephanie Mills is an absolute queen. And if you're not familiar with the cast album, you've got to listen to it. I've seen so many productions. And one of the things I love is every production is so different. And that's one of the things that, again, sets it apart from MGM. When you see a stage version of the MGM film, it's almost always emulating the film. Whereas with The Wiz, people are pushed to be more creative, more original, and they do these amazing artistic productions that have, each one seems to have its own life to it. And that's what I love, is that you don't see the same production of The Wiz twice ever.
So true. Tori.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that sentiment. Not only did it broach the topic of inclusion and representation for people of color, which is just so incredible. And we're getting there, but not quite all the way there yet on Broadway. It also it took the risk of being extraordinarily contemporary. So while it took that risk, and it could have been pigeonholed to like, oh, it's a 70s musical, but you're right, they take it and people get so creative, and it still stands the test of time somehow, even though it is so wrapped up in the culture of the 70s. It's still beautifully in contemporary times, and I hope it will continue for as long as Oz exists.
I agree. I love it. And when my sophomore year in high school, they decided to do The Wiz, and I was so excited. And I got to play the Scarecrow, which was life-changing for me. But that was actually when I first learned, when I was 16, that the Scarecrow song was different, because I wasn't as familiar with the show as I was with the movie. But I now love the show way more than the movie. I think the show succeeds so beautifully and has so much joy, and I love it. And Garrett, I have to disagree with you wholeheartedly. I saw the City Center's Encore's production, and I was in tears, and I thought it was perfect. I wouldn't have changed anything about it. I wanted that exact production to transfer to Broadway. So I will. We can take it to the what do they call it? The ring?
Yeah.
Boxing ring?
No, I went in, I saw it. It was the first ever opening night I ever saw of a show, because I just happened to be in the city. And then I had tickets to see it 2 nights later. And I thought, while Ashanti can't act, that sort of worked for her because she looked lost on stage and Dorothy's lost in Oz. But she forgot to click her heels at the end. And while Home is a terrific song, I don't quite think her performance of that song was enough to get her out of Oz and back to Kansas.
Shots
I didn't like the direction. I thought there was no magic to it whatsoever. All of the witches' entrances were just, oh, let's have them walk on stage. There was no real magic to any of it. It was an over choreographed mess, which is a big complaint I have with Andy Blankenbuehler in general. Overall, it basically sounded good, but Coleman Domingo couldn't sing it either as the Wiz. And they lowered those keys to y'all got it like way down. I wanted to love it. There were elements and things I did sort of like, but it just did not work for me at all.
Ashanti is about to appear here and throw down with you.
Yeah, exactly. Celebrity feud. I just have to completely disagree with you. Agree to just disagree with you on every aspect. I loved every element of it so much that I was like vibrating with excitement and love while watching it. I kind of just never wanted it to end, and I thought it was really, really fantastic. And I wish, my biggest regret is that I hadn't seen it again. I only got to see it the one time. But it stands, there are clips of it for people that want to maybe check it out for themselves. Also, if anybody wants to see the show as it should pretty much be produced with a couple tweaks and changes, The Wiz Live is out there, so that's something for people to enjoy. But let's now transition and talk about Judy Garland, because I had a friend in the last week who asked me about her and didn't know much about her life, didn't see, the Judy biopic, which is very fictionalized anyway. He saw something on YouTube and he wanted to know more about Judy Garland's life, and he thought that it was so sad and so tragic and about the drug addiction and the rest of it. And while there was a lot of joy to her life, I wanted to explain to him that, it always irked me whenever anybody talked about Judy Garland as a drug addict, because, a drug addiction is a very personal thing for everybody who experiences it. It's different for everyone, and they have their own struggles and the hows and the whys. And I think to look at the case of Judy Garland, it was forced upon her drug addiction. She was a child. It was when she was making The Wizard of Oz that they thought she was overweight. They wanted her to lose weight. They put her on diet pills, which had an upper effect. So she would be up and working and not eating during the day. And then at night she'd have trouble sleeping. So they would give her pills to help her sleep. And so while she's taking these pills during the day to help her curb her appetite, and then pills at night to go to sleep. And, she's a child, so there was no choice of her own, no parents intervening or helping. And this drug addiction was thrust upon her by her employers, something that would never fly today. So, what's going to happen to any human being, let alone a child who's taking pills to sleep on a regular basis, and then you become addicted to them. So it became a lifelong problem and habit for her. So I think that, we have to look at her addiction in the context is very painful. Tori, what are your thoughts about this?
So a little known fact about Judy Garland is actually that even before The Wizard of Oz, her mother was getting her medication from the time that she was 12 years old while she was performing 8 shows a day in vaudeville, which, as you guys can imagine, I mean, doing 1 show a night is exhausting. Doing a matinee day, you feel like collapsing, and 8 shows a day, I cannot even imagine. So when I look at Judy Garland, first of all, she was somebody who was very confused and they didn't want her. Her family did not keep that a secret. She was a burden on them. And then when they found out that she had this talent, they exploited her. And then her father, who she saw as her greatest advocate, died at a very young age. So, you can't look at somebody and pinpoint something like addiction without looking at it in its full context, which is a disease. And by the way, if anybody out there is struggling, please go and get yourself really treatable. And I wish we had contemporary context to help Judy Garland, because back then there was so little understanding about the neurological implications and what they could have done to help her, instead of just trying to cold turkey her pills and get her well, which, of course, is not the way to go. But she was still, at the end of the day, anybody who knew her said that she was always funny, always fun, always the life of the party. And, I don't like thinking about her in the context of this one piece of her life. She was a full human being.
Garrett, what are your thoughts?
Mine are kind of similar to Tori's. She was put in a very unenviable, I'm not even sure I'm saying that word right, an enviable position. She, like Tori said, her mother was one of the ultimate stage mothers out there. And there weren't the protections that are somewhat in place now for child actors. Certainly you don't have the studios giving them uppers and downers to get them through the day. But there's still other problems out there. And I think it's just, it's so easy to focus on the tragedy, and has been focused on so often that I kind of shy away from it. I feel like she, for lack of a better term, has suffered enough, if you will. And I'd rather think about the positive things, how fiercely she was devoted to her children, how she did do what she could to either help them in the business or keep them out of it if that was what they wanted. I feel like there are so many other aspects to her that it's better. I'd rather focus on those and some of the really wonderful performances she gave us, not just in Wizard, but in Meet Me in St. Louis or Summer Stock or A Star is Born, versus just the sadder aspects.
Mm-hmm. Zoe?
So Garrett and Tori hit on some of the things that I was thinking. But one of the things that I always think of when I think of Judy's life and people ask if she's a tragedy or try and project her as a tragedy, I think of this really great line that Lorna Luft has in the final narration of Life with Judy Garland, Me and My Shadows, which in my mind is an infinitely better biopic of Judy's life than Judy with Renee Zellweger. But the line is, when people think of Mama's life as a tragedy, they're missing the whole point. And to me, that's really the thesis statement of Judy to me. I think some people see this tragedy because her life had such peaks and valleys. She had these low moments, yes, like with her addiction. But when you look at the high moments in her life, I think that's why the lows seem so low. Because how many people can say that they've been Dorothy or this superstar? So when you hold her up as this superstar and then realize that she did have human issues and human failings in her life, that they're just that much more punctuated by the stardom. So I think we always got to keep that in mind, keep that in check. Like Garrett said, by all accounts, and Tori mentioned this too, everyone who knew her loved her. By all accounts from her children, she was a terrific mother. So I think we really need to look at the context of that. This Hollywood superstar that was an amazing woman, an amazing mother who just happened to have some really rough patches in her life.
Right. She was taken advantage of by her managers. They stole money from her. She was always in debt. Yeah, there were some really difficult things. But you're right. I've never really thought about it that way, in the polarization of the opposites of the highs and lows. And the highs were so high. And maybe those lows are no different than a lot of people have experienced debt. A lot of people have experienced addiction, but they're not under the microscope that Judy Garland has been, and why she did overshadow all of the amazing accomplishments and the talent that she was incomparable, right? Julius, what do you think of Judy?
I think Zoe kind of like basically the piggyback off of Zoe though. It's like the highs outweigh the lows. So, and of course, Me and My Shadows was one of the first biopics of Judy Garland that I sat down and actually watched, and I thought it was very well done. Showing like the early years and her going through her life, and pretty much, and it happens. So, and it happens. So with Judy, it was like, a talented actress, a legend. And then basically when you really look at all the other stuff that gone on in her life, though, it may bring her down a peg in a few books, though. But, I kind of look at all the positive stuff, what she's done, what she's done in communities, what she's done not only in just films, what she's done outside of that, though, not just saying Oz, but it's just what her impact all around, though. So, I mean, Judy Garland will be a legend forever. Absolutely. She will be a legend forever.
Well put. And on that note, Tori, there's some new Oz collectibles coming out this year. Can you give us a report?
So one of the really fun things that just recently came out, and you guys may have seen this in one of my more recent videos, is this beautiful wall clock by the Bradford Exchange. Now, I'm a little bit dubious about ordering from the Bradford Exchange, but what I typically do is wait to see other people receive theirs, and then if it's all good in the hood, I go ahead and order one. So this particular wall clock is a tribute to the book verse rather than the film, and it is just stunning, and it's really reasonably priced, so definitely go and check it out. Also, Icon is coming out with yet another replica piece, and they're coming out with the Lion's Medal of Courage. I've pre-ordered mine. Please go ahead and pre-order yours. None have shipped yet that I'm aware of, but given ruby slippers and how beautifully those were made, I think it's safe to say that they are going to be equally beautiful and high quality. And they're definitely more in a reasonable price range if those ruby slippers were a little bit out of what you were reasonably hoping to spend. So definitely give those a look, and I will report back when it comes and let you guys know if the quality holds up.
Sounds great. There's also some Spoontiques line of like hair scrunchies and other things that I saw are going to be coming out. And Jim Shore has some new ornaments that were just made interesting after Christmas, right? Those are other. It's nice to see that line and trademark is still going.
Yeah, and also now if you were looking for Oz Christmas things for your tree, for your home, now after the holidays is a really good time to look at those markets because things are on sale. Also, the number 7 beauty products that I mentioned in our last video is all 30% off on their website. So if you were holding off on those things, definitely go and give it a look now.
Very cool. And there are some anniversaries with some of the Oz titles. Garrett, what can you tell us?
Okay, so we've got two sort of interesting anniversaries of sorts. First, we have the 100th anniversary of Ruth Plumly Thompson's first book, The Royal Book of Oz. There is a newer version with newer illustrations that's out there. I don't have it yet, but Royal Book of Oz, which is her first, even though it is labeled on the early editions from Riley and Lee by L. Frank Baum to sort of bridge the gap after his passing. It is fully Ruth Plumley Thompson. So that turns 100 this year. It's a fairly controversial book. We'll save that for probably a better time to discuss. But it turns 100. And then the other thing that happened.
Wait. Can you just tell us really quickly why? I'll just give us a little tease of why it's controversial.
Well, it's controversial. And this is endemic of children's books, particularly in the 20s. There are some fairly, without sugarcoating it, there's some very racist stereotypes about people from China.
Oh boy.
And it's fairly controversial because in some of her books where these stereotypes show up, it's not quite so blatant. But in this one, it's significantly more obvious and overt, which is subsequently why the newly illustrated version is the one that's safer to have on your shelves, because the caricaturism isn't there. And a lot of it is not helped by Neil's artwork, but it turns 100 this year. So it's going to be interesting to see if anything is sort of done for it.
But that's one of the things that we could do in retrospect is to be able to turn a woke eye on the past and see it in a different way and call it out, so it's nice that you can alert us to that. What's the other anniversary?
The other anniversary, and this is something that's going to happen for another couple of years. Public domain, every year on the 1st, new titles enter the public domain. The biggest novel title this year was The Great Gatsby, but because Oz books were still being written through the 20s, and this is all the stuff, Thompson's The Lost King of Oz is now in public domain for the first time. So we can finally get beyond just the Del Rey and an original edition. So it'll be interesting to see if there are any publishing houses that decide to throw out copies of Lost King and do new editions of that. So those are kind of the two booky things of the year, at least as of now.
That's awesome. Very cool. Thanks, Garrett. You're our book dude. So I want to throw it over to Zoe, if you will tell our viewers how and why to join the Oz Club.
Well, it's a whole new year. It's a great time to get a new membership, or if you've been a member, renew your membership, because the Oz Club has so many great things about it that I love. I look forward to the Bomb Bugle, which is their publication. It comes out 3 times a year. And I am always glued to my mailbox when I know it's coming, because it is a huge magazine. Most issues are 50 pages or more that just talk about all aspects of Oz and L. Frank Baum, and basically anything Oz you can think of has at some point made its way into the Bugle. So if you love reading about Oz, it is a great place to look. We have a news digest in there so you can find out where maybe a new Oz production is popping up or a new Oz film that's on the way. We've also got great perks like we host several little events, sort of like, I call them mini virtual conventions. Those come every major holiday or anytime we have something to celebrate Oz. You can look at all that the club has to offer, because I could go on for hours about the club. You can get more information at ozclub.org, or to get more information on our virtual events, which are totally free and open to the public, you can get information on ozcon.org. And I really recommend looking it up because it's so affordable. An adult membership is only $30 a year, and a youth membership is only $15. And there are other levels that you can opt into. And with each of those, you get a special perk, like a hardbound copy of Oziana or a special limited edition Oz calendar, which are awesome. If you've never seen one of the Oz Club calendars, it is worth the extra cost to get it because they are so cool.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Zoe. Thank you, everybody, for watching and joining us. Thank you to the rest of the panel. Leave a comment. Let us know what you'd like us to talk about, or what you know that's coming out in Oz and you'd like us to cover sometime. Like and share and all that business. And thanks for watching. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Here.
Yeah.